Metallica, the name alone defines an entire generation of metal music, but there's one specific album that the band released that divided fans all around the world. I'm of course talking about the self-titled Black Album, known as the Black Album because of a cover that was a black canvas with a Metallica logo. Was it a masterpiece, a sellout, or just a moment when Metallica changed forever? Today we're gonna deep dive into one of the most epic, controversial, and game-changing albums of metal history. Let's talk about the Black Album. Let's rewind to the 80s, where Metallica was already a powerhouse. They already built their own name because of the four iconic albums. Kill Them All, that was raw, fast, and pure trash. Ride the Lightning, more complex, a little bit more melodic. Master of Puppets, that was a genre-defining masterpiece. And last but not least, And Justice for All, dark, technical, and politically charged. They were the kings of thrash metal, but the last album, And Justice for All, was heavily criticized for the thin production, the lack of bass that you barely hear, like you pretty much don't hear the bass. It's only credited in the album, but it's really hard to actually hear in any of the tracks.
So Lars comes in, and again, this is a long time ago, I'm trying to make sure I got the right memory here. And he walks in, he listens to it back a couple of seconds, he goes, he shakes his head. He says, "Stop tape." I said, "What's the problem?" What happened to my drum sound? And I think I basically said, "You were serious?" So we had, long story short, we had to get the drum sound the way he wanted. And I'm like, "Oh God, here we go." And he goes, "Okay, now the bass." And I said, "Great part. All right, I want you to drop the bass level down in the mix where you barely audibly can hear it." I thought it was a joke. So I did that, and then they said, "All right, drop it down another 6 to 8 dB." I looked at Hetfield like this. I said, "Is this guy serious?" And Hetfield went like this. Okay. So when that happened, I said, the vision, again, I understand. It's their record. It's not my record. But, I had again, I can't, at the end of the day, if the band wants something, regardless of what I think or say, it's their record. They have to have final say. I get that.
And another aspect that was heavily criticized was the songwriting. At this point, the band wanted a change. Enter the Black Album.
Metallica came to Madison Square Garden, but not to perform. Instead, they gave away 19,000 free tickets for fans to come here and listen to their new album, which won't be in stores till August 12th.
So what did Metallica do differently this time around? First of all, there was a new person involved, Bob Rock, that was only supposed to be a mixing engineer at first, but quickly became a producer on the album, and he introduced a lot of big changes that actually shaped the album itself. The first thing that you have to know is that Bob Rock was known back in the day for being the producer of bands like Motley Crue and Bon Jovi, so not exactly what you would expect for a thrash band, right? Bob introduced so many changes that helped the band make this album. First of all, he forced them to actually play together at live recording. As far as my understanding goes, before Bob Rock, what they would do is just record their own parts separately in the studio and then they would be mixed together. But Bob forced them to actually play live together, and that just really helped them have a more cohesive sound. He also pushed James Hetfield to develop a stronger vocal style, making his voice more melodic and more controlled. Something's wrong, something like heavy thoughts tonight, ain't the honest way. And maybe even most importantly, he gave a band a stronger sound when it came to the drums and to the bass. Again, the last album was heavily criticized because you were barely able to hear any bass. This time around, everything changed and the bass came back to life. The result? Groovier, more mid-tempo songs, simpler structures, a focus on hooks rather than pure aggression. Metallica had never sounded this huge. So even though it's been more than 30 years since it's released, the Black Album is still one of the most talked about metal albums of history. One of the main reasons is that, of course, it contains some of the most iconic and loved Metallica songs. So let's figure out what worked and what shocked the fans. Enter Sandman is the song that redefined Metallica. It has one of the most iconic riffs that lots of people, lots of generations still love and adore. But did you know that the original lyrics was supposed to be way different, but Bob Rock convinced the band to change it to make it a little bit more universal. The first version of the song was about sudden infant death syndrome, a very heavy topic even for Metallica, so Bob Rock convinced them to change the lyrics to make it a little bit more universal. Next iconic tune on the album, Sad But True. Slower, heavier, and tuned down to D standard, which was rare for Metallica at the time. The song showed how crushingly heavy the band could be without playing super fast. Then we have The Unforgiven, a total flip on the typical ballad structure. Instead of soft verses and heavy choruses, Metallica reversed it. Lyrically, it's one of Hetfield's most personal songs. And then we have potentially the most diverse Metallica song ever, Nothing Else Matters. And you might be wondering, a love song on a Metallica album? Yes, that's what we got. Hetfield actually wrote it for his girlfriend and never intended to release it, but Lars heard it and convinced him otherwise. And well, rest is history.
And listen, this is one of the best songs ever written to me. I mean, it's just...
Yes.
It's a song that never gets old.
Of course, every single song on the album deserves a mention, but these four that I mentioned now are probably the ones that are most remembered, considered the most iconic, and just like kind of created the legacy of the album. But of course, the album itself is just a masterpiece. Despite the massive success, not everyone was happy. Specifically, we had purists of thrash sound that felt betrayed because they wanted like the aggression of puppets or the complexity of justice. And according to some people, it was the Metallica sellout moment, because this is when they became more universal, so more people were able to listen to them. They weren't exclusive to thrash metal anymore, and lots of people didn't appreciate this. Something else that was heavily criticized was the fact that songs definitely slow down. Metallica previously was very known for their super high BPM, beat per minute, while this album definitely made a change even in that aspect. Lars and James had no regrets though. They saw the Black Album as a necessary evolution. Keep in mind that this is the band's 5th album, and it's very hard to find a band that doesn't change at least a little bit with their 5th record. Some changes are always necessary. And financially, the band wasn't wrong either, because the album sold more than 30 million copies worldwide, making it one of the best-selling albums of all the time. Fast forward to plus 30 years to 2025, and the album is still everywhere. It's loved by so many because of how mainstream it was. Again, the thrash purists, they weren't wrong. It is true that Metallica changed here. They did leave the thrash sound a little bit behind. The raw aggression, they were left behind. And the album was indeed more mainstream. But because of how mainstream it is, it actually brought metal music to a broader audience, making it one of the most successful albums of all the time. And let's not forget how influential the album was for the upcoming bands like Slipknot and Disturbed, and many more just saw a massive inspiration in the Black Album, and Metallica in general, of course, but the Black Album is iconic and it changed everything. Now, I want to see what you think about the Black Album. Do you remember where you were and what you were doing when you listened to it for the very first time? What did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? And did your opinion change over time? I actually got to listen to the full album for the first time a couple of months ago over on Twitch, where we just did a dedicated Black Album stream. I got to listen to every single song and I loved it. Even though I wasn't able to play just one over on Twitch because it's very explicit. Let's see if you can guess which one it is. So I ended up reacting to that one over on Patreon because, yeah, it was a little explicit. But let me tell you that as a new fan of Metallica that got to listen to them because of this channel, I absolutely adore the Black Album, and I actually went to see them live almost a year ago, and I had the time of my life. And of course, some of the songs of the Black Album were also played live. I'm really curious to see your take on this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching this little video with me, and let me know if you would like to see more videos like this one where we talk about specific albums or just important things that happen in the world of music. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm gonna see you soon. Bye!